Summertime Rendering is definitely one of the most intense and interesting manga I've ever read. I'll just start with the plot and go through it very briefly because I don't want to give any spoilers. Basically, Shinpei arrives back to his hometown to see his sister's death, but it turns out to be really complicated, and then he goes through the adventure of his life while solving this mysterious case of shadow. And then I have to talk about how good the time traveling setting in this manga is. It is genuinely one of the most creative ways to time travel I've ever seen, and it is honestly the most amazing and well thought out one. It is perfectly explained as to how it works, and then why does the main character have it. It really defies your typical time traveling shenanigans, like ReZero for example. And the author tried to make it not in a way that would drastically change how the story goes, so you can't just die and then go back in time to fix it. It's a lot more complicated than that. And not only the time traveling one is well planned, everything it is extremely well thought out, and all characters and actions have a meaning behind it. There's no random things like power of friendship and just able to win everything. They have to think and then actually put their brain power into it, which makes it really intense to read throughout, and you genuinely don't know what could happen because of how unpredictable this manga is. The author is not scared to make any of the characters die, which I really like. And the ending is definitely one of the most brilliant endings I've seen. It somehow managed to fill up all the plot holes and end it perfectly. Like, you can tell that the author put a lot of effort into this manga. And then I like how he incorporated the island culture from the rural parts of Japan, like their islands and stuff, into the manga because of the place it is happening in, which is Tomogashima Island. And if you look at the pictures of that island, the author clearly used inspirations from the real-life island to the manga. There's a lot of places in the manga that is on the island, which I think is really cool. Because like when you happen to be at the island, it can almost feel like you are a part of the story, and that is part of the ways the author tries to make the plot. It's actually going to different parts of the island to see how the characters would be and how the plot would go. And along with that, the author tried to include the unique dialect of the Tomogashima Island people into the manga with a unique way they speak, like basically their own dialect, to which is more shown in the anime rather than the manga because there's voiceover over it, and then the author made them speak in the way that the people from the Tokushima Island would speak, which I think is really cool. Because the author wants to preserve this dialect because of the decreasing population of the island and the young people heading over to big cities, therefore they stopped using the dialect and it's just slowly dying, which the author found really saddening about, and he's trying to permanently preserve it in his manga by keeping those dialects in the way the characters talk, which I think is really cool. The art style for this manga is really unique because of the cool way the author draws. He does a mix of pencil and digital, and he always starts off with a pencil rough sketch, and then he puts another paper on top of that to refine the sketch, and then he imports it to digital, and then where he does the scenes and stuff. It is really complicated, and I really hard simplified the process. But it is at the end of volume 6 if you want to check in detail how he draws. So this makes it really unique. It's like the perfect blend between digital and real drawing. And I didn't really get used to it at the start of it, but the more I read it, the better it becomes. The contrast between the characters as a background is actually really cool. The characters is often not getting any shading, and it's often a pretty plain but detailed drawing, while the background is more like real image, which creates a really interesting contrast. As for the characters, I really like the main character Shinpei. He's always really smart and knows what he needs to do. And he never really makes any dumb decisions. Like, he's always chill, and due to his like special thing, which allows him to stop and think the whole thing thoroughly. Like, he doesn't just brute force everything. Given how serious the issue is, he actually coped it with it really well. Because if he doesn't actually think about it, he would just die. The female main character is pretty good as well. Aside from the fact that she's wearing a swimsuit 90% of the time, she is actually really interesting and full of personality. And honestly, she's just perfect. And the author puts so much effort into making her a genuinely amazing character. Like, her willingness to do stuff and her determination just easily makes her one of my favorite characters of all time. Like, they just work so well together. I also really like how the shadows of the characters act, especially the sister one. It really went into a lot of depth in how they work and stuff. It's extremely well thought out, and it just makes it so satisfying to read. The older characters are given to a unique touch to make it special, and then the shadow is like adding another twist on it. Instead of it just being a doppelganger, it is quite different and really unique. It's more like a twin instead of a doppelganger. And the villain is genuinely scary and terrifying, with great background story and motivation. And then yeah, the last thing to talk about is that the author really likes the island cultures throughout Japan, and he often visits a lot of them, which I talked about earlier. And because of that, he would try to make the characters feel like they're from small communities, and how the people on those rural places would act, which is different to like a normal big city. Like,